Hello everyone. It's me, Arden Lee. I'm back today with another video, and today I want to talk about how to have a great Thanksgiving all by yourself. Maybe you're not even having a Thanksgiving. Maybe you were just completely opting out of Thanksgiving altogether, and I absolutely don't blame you for that. And this video is essentially a video to give you permission to spend that day however you want to spend it. So if you're not familiar with me already, I'm Arden Lee. I would love to invite you to subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and hit that button. I love creating videos that help people to feel better about themselves and their lives, to reprogram and repattern their thoughts and beliefs in order to optimize their lives for success and happiness. So if that sounds like your jam, hit that button and let me know. Let me know what I can help you with. Leave a comment. Let me know how it's hitting you. So in today's video, what I want to talk about is being able to give ourselves permission to just completely opt out of the things that we don't want to do. And so if that's all you get from this video, good job, you got the point. you can click to the next one now. But especially I wanted to touch on Thanksgiving, in particular, because I don't know if you saw, I put up a video earlier this week that is about how to cope with your family on Thanksgiving if you do choose to spend this holiday. If you're in America, I know that not everybody obviously celebrates Thanksgiving, but if you're in America and you come from a family where this is a tradition, I've made a video. You can check it out on the channel if that resonates with you more than this one does, about how to get through the holidays and maintain your positive mindset even when you're around people who maybe don't share the same beliefs and practices that you do, or who have their own lovely, unique, and individual ways of stressing each other the fuck out. So, so if that sounds like what your plans are for this year, I definitely advise you to go check out that video. But if you're someone who maybe you watched that video and you were like, Arden, these are all great tips on how to handle my family and how to, reconcile my political beliefs also with my desire not to, start an argument or create conflict. But even just listening to this, I already feel overwhelmed. I don't know if I'm ready to face that. I don't know if that's something that I want to do. And if that's your reaction, then absolutely, I want you to honor that in yourself. And so I'm going to make this video about essentially just the fact that you don't have to opt into that. You don't have to say yes to it just because there are other people in your family who are trying to make you feel bad if you don't. For me, I got used to this pretty early on. I came from an abusive household, specifically brought on by one parent. And my parents split when I was pretty young. I was about 8 or 9 years old when they started their divorce process, and I was just very, very clear on the fact that there was one parent who was treating me with, with kindness and respect and emotional honesty, and there was another parent who was being abusive and loud and callous and vulgar and just really doing a number on my health, both mental and emotional and physical as well, because of course that shows up in physical symptoms. So when I turned 18, I was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. So I've had a lot of practice in saying no to people who expected me and felt entitled to my saying yes to them. And saying no in that capacity was, I look back at that and I'm like, that was not a pleasant thing to do. It was such a scary just such a scary transition to go under, to be like, oh wow, I am an adult now and I have the power to say no to this person, and I have to break that pattern of being like I'm a child and I can't say no to this person, and I have to reclaim my power. But in retrospect, I'm so grateful for that experience, because it gives me the ability to also tell other people that they are allowed to do that, and everyone's circumstances are unique. If you still depend on your family for certain things, maybe you have a disability, maybe maybe you don't have the economic freedom that you'd like to. Of course, economic freedom is also something that can be, not, I'm not gonna oversimplify it and say that that's something that's easy to achieve, but it's certainly something that you can start aiming your internal compass toward. You can start saying, you know what, I have to put up with my family right now because I depend on them, but maybe I'm gonna, try and throw myself into creating an online business or creating other sources of income so that ultimately I don't have to do that. So there are all sorts of ways to to approach this. There's so much, you guys, there's so much free material online to tell you how to start at least creating some kind of income that you can then take and accumulate and start to then invest in perhaps like the paid material on how to create more income, which is going to create more and more of an investment and more accumulation over time. So I don't want to simplify that. I don't want to say that it's easy, but I do want to let you know that that it's possible. So if you're looking to create that economic freedom for yourself, that's a topic for another video. But it is very much related to this idea of how much we are allowed to draw personal boundaries with our families, because certainly if I in any capacity expected to receive an inheritance from the parent that I cut off when I was 18, that would be, I mean, I might think that it's the right thing to do because I had to put up with her bullshit for 18 years. And frankly, I feel like I'm entitled to some compensation for it. But if I were to count on that, that would be very, I think that would be very silly in my regard. So, so instead I'm really trying to find that freedom for myself, to create that for myself so that I'm not dependent on anyone. I knew someone once said that your first million is your fuck you money, right? So anyway, I don't want to get too off topic with that because I want to return to the idea that you're allowed to draw personal boundaries with your with your family members and really, with anyone. You're never under an obligation, unless it's something about, paying your taxes, which is, even then, I guess you technically do have the freedom to not do that. I just don't advise it because, we still live under a government rule and they're probably going to come for you if you don't do that eventually. So I've been audited by the IRS, by the way. It was very unpleasant. Anyway, but in so many cases we have so much more freedom to draw boundaries than we think we do. So if spending Thanksgiving with your family is not something that you want to do, I'm going to give you permission and just say, you can be kind about it. You can say, hey, you know what? I've got a bunch of other stuff that I've got to do this year. I'll miss you, but I really need to be firm and just say a firm no, that I'm just not a yes to this experience. And because there's other things that I have to do for myself. And thank you so much for inviting me. Maybe I'll hop on a phone call and you can put me on speakerphone. I'll say hi to everyone and tell them I love them. You can come up with compromises too that can soften the blow if that's something that you need to do. Of course, if you don't even feel like softening the blow, you don't have to do that at all. I don't even talk to the parent that I don't talk to anymore. So, I'm not even going to tell him that I'm not going to be there for Thanksgiving because it's been, I haven't been there in years. So, so whatever feels best to you to really set yourself up for whatever is going to make things smoothest for you. You can smooth things over with your family, not necessarily because you're that concerned about placating them, but rather just to make your own life easier. Just, to extend that bit of kindness that says, yeah, sure, I'll hop on speakerphone, I'll say hi to everyone, if that makes it a little easier for you or whatever. Or if you think that they're going to spend that time, guilting you or whatever, then you don't have to do that at all. So what can you do on that day otherwise instead if you don't want to be with your family? Well, there are lots of people who celebrate the holidays by just getting their friends together and having some food, and that's a great opportunity to spend time with your chosen family and to really express your gratitude, Thanksgiving, right? But express your gratitude for the people in your life that you do love having around you. And that's a great thing to do anyway. I love to throw a dinner party. I throw a dinner party every year between Halloween and Thanksgiving. That is, part Halloween themed because I'm kind of goth, if you haven't noticed already, and also partly Thanksgiving themed because I love good fall foods. And I gather my friends together and I make a whole big spread and I say like, hey, thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being my friend, and thank you for celebrating the season of autumn with me that I love so much. So that's certainly an alternative to Thanksgiving that is absolutely possible if that is something that calls to you. Also, you don't have to feel an obligation to celebrate at all. As I mentioned in my last video, there are many reasons that Thanksgiving right now is a highly politicized and highly controversial holiday, because we are dealing so much in our country right now with the way that our government is treating Indigenous peoples, from the attempted voter suppression. Well, I don't know if it was attempted or if it was, succeeded. Maybe a little bit of both. But the voter suppression that happened in Indigenous communities this past election, if you're not informed about that, there were counties that were saying that they were not going to count the Indigenous communities' tribal membership cards as ID at the ballots at the voting stations, and that was put out pretty close to the election, essentially. So it left them with very little time to find other identification card options. So I don't blame people who are tuned into that for saying, like, I don't want to celebrate Thanksgiving this year, because here we are, and we're having this holiday that is supposed to celebrate the friendship that we had with the Indigenous peoples whose country we essentially colonized, when we came over as white Europeans, at least, my Whitey McWhiterson peoples anyway. I don't know if, what your own race is watching this, but there's a lot of people who are like, I don't want to engage with that. I don't want to celebrate that, So one of the things that I've advised people is if you want to give back instead, if you want to do something that will sort of reverse that damage a bit, if you what you feel like is you want to take that narrative and stop it from going in that direction of white supremacy and redirect it to being helpful toward those communities that have suffered hundreds of years of oppression. One great thing to do is to start an Amazon wish list for supplies that are needed at for shelters for this time of year, especially shelters that may be in or near Indigenous communities. That's something that you can certainly look up and research. A lot of people in the past couple of years have been fundraising for the protesters at Standing Rock, who are protesting against the Dakota Access pipeline that would be taking so much of their land from them and forcing them to go somewhere else, and as we've done in this country so many times throughout the last 100 years, and also potentially polluting their land with a pipeline that's not healthy for Mother Earth. So anyway, a great way to celebrate Thanksgiving this year, if that's something that calls to you in particular, is to put out to yourself and your friends, a link for donations. Put out an Amazon wish list full of things like, underwear and socks and blankets and, clean clothing that you can, deliver or have sent to an Indigenous community, to a shelter in or near an Indigenous community that might need that. And the thing I love about using an Amazon wish list for that is that it makes it super easy for people. I had a friend, a year or two ago who was saying, like, hey, if anyone can drop off, blankets or donations to me or whatever. But it's so rare for people these days to like want to leave their house and get in the car and actually go somewhere. And so especially like in this day and age of Amazon Prime and instant gratification. So if you create an Amazon wish list, it makes it really easy for people to just go and pick an item that's in their budget range that they want to donate under, and just that one click ordering, and you can get all of that to your house and either take it there, or you can have it, I assume you can probably figure out a way to have it sent directly if you don't want to make that trip either. So those logistics you can certainly figure out, given the policy of the individual shelter that you're donating to. You can call them and ask what's the easiest way for that to all work. And in the meantime, taking that day for yourself. There's a term that's going around now called JOMO, JOMO, and it's called the joy of missing out. It comes from that term FOMO, which used to be is known as the fear of missing out, that used to be really popular. Like, I'm going to go out anyway. I don't know if I'm going to have fun tonight, but I have FOMO. I have fear of missing out. What if something cool happens and I'm not there? And out of that sort of phenomenon arised JOMO, the joy of missing out. Hey, I don't care what happens. Something fun might happen over there, whatever, but I'm going to be home with my cat. And believe me, I've been home with my cat a lot during the evenings this year because self-care is so important during times of high stress, and there is so much moving and healing throughout our collective, that it's really important for us to take care of ourselves. So if you want to spend Thanksgiving with your pet and a blanket and a book and make yourself some tea, whatever it is, I just made this video basically to give you permission to do that. You have permission to say no to everyone else around you who has expectations of you. You have permission to, to take care of yourself in the way that you feel is going to be best for you. You have permission to opt out of these national phenomena, that we call holidays. Sometimes international, depending on, this one particularly is just a national one since it's American specific. But you have permission to opt out of that, or to take whatever you get from that is useful to you. For example, like I said, I threw my own dinner party this past weekend. I was like, I love the idea of having friends come together and share Thanksgiving kind of foods. I make sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce, and turkey. But I don't do it under the name Thanksgiving, and I don't, I just make it a celebration of good food and good friendships, and and the fall autumn season, which is the gothiest time of the year, that I particularly appreciate. So and remember too that if you do have trouble establishing boundaries with your family because you might have some economic dependence on them still, that's also valid, and that doesn't make you a bad person for not being able to opt out. I just want to give you that freedom of knowing that economic freedom, even though it's not easy, and even though certainly it's different for different people who have different amounts of privilege and who are coming from different backgrounds and who have different amounts of trauma, for example, different amounts of systemic privilege, all of that interrelates. Even though there is so much differing to that, I do want you to know that there is a path to economic freedom that I've seen so many people overcome a whole bunch of odds, and really the first step to that is just to orient your compass in that direction, even if it doesn't happen immediately. Just being open to the possibility and saying, hey, maybe that could be me one day if I just follow a certain amount of steps. What I love to say is, there's that line from The Edge that is said by Anthony Hopkins, and they're looking to kill a bear in the woods so they can survive, so they can eat something and also not be terrorized by the bear while they're stranded out after a plane crashed in the snowy woods or whatever. And they're trying to figure out a way without equipment to kill this bear, and they find a way that that indigenous peoples without access to modern firearms used to do it. And Anthony Hopkins says, what one man can do, another can do. And that might be also like slightly tone deaf, because especially because Anthony Hopkins is a white man, and and specifically he's looking to the ways that indigenous people fought wildlife and hunted back then. And so I want to point that out. I don't want to say that without saying that, but there is a grain of truth in it, which is that when someone does something, they pave a way forward, and they show you how it might be possible for you to be able to do it as well. So absolutely, I encourage you to start looking at some of that free material that's elsewhere on YouTube or wherever you can find it online. Lots of great financial coaches on Facebook who give away a bunch of free material. So definitely don't let your understanding of your lack of privilege, don't let that become something that keeps you perpetuating in that mind frame when you can at least start to expose yourself to the kind of the beliefs that will help you find your way out of that, and that will lead you to being able to draw stronger boundaries with your family, because you will have your own freedom, you will have your own independence and self-sufficiency, and I definitely wish that for you. And then you'll never have to go to another Thanksgiving that you don't want to go to ever again. You can spend all of them with your cat and a good book and a good blanket or some good friends. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you have a great holiday week, however you choose to spend it.